And did we say we're going to actually have Aishwarya as a panelist, or what did we say? Panelist is just three of us, right? She'll be in the other one, right? Attendee, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
How y'all doing? Long time no see.
Oh, good. Yeah. Long time no see.
Okay.
Paul, you're off camera.
I'm off audio and camera. I hadn't realized that. Can you see the starting slide?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
And camera on.
do you guys see my thing actually access denied, etc. in opposite order or the right order? Yesterday Paul said it was incorrect, so I have two versions of it. I don't know which version
Oh,
should
I
I.
see. Your background.
Yeah.
I think we go back to the full screen. Talk.
Yeah. Hello?
It's backwards.
Of course. Okay. Always like I have both the versions, but I wasn't sure which version should I be using. Okay, now.
That's right.
Okay, got it.
Okay. It's 11 o'clock, so we will give a moment or two for everyone to join.
Subbu, you want to pin the participant panelists?
Oh, yes, I'm going to make Paul the host. Okay. Good news is we are recording this. So,
It's 2 minutes in. Shall we start?
yeah, sure. Yeah, anyway, this is recorded. So,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. From always on to on demand, why just-in-time control is your best defense against cyber attacks. I'm Paul Hurd, and I'll be your moderator. We've got two great speakers today. Sandeep, who led the identity program in some of the most secure conscious organizations, and Subbu, CEO and co-founder of BalkanID. Sandeep Gundapaneni is a cybersecurity leader specializing in identity and access management, privileged access management, and cloud security. He has spent his career in the fintech industry, building and scaling global identity programs and developing a patented just-in-time access system to strengthen least privilege controls. His work spans PKI, applied cybergraphy, network security, and vulnerability management, and he's passionate about using AI and automation to build identity governance and build more resilient digital ecosystems. Subbu Rama is the CEO and co-founder of BalkanID, a company specializing in identity security, access governance solutions, With close to two decades in the tech industry, he has a strong background in infrastructure, AI, cybersecurity, and cloud computing. Having held multiple product engineering and cyber security roles prior to joining BalkanID, Subbu co-founded Bitfusion, a company focused on virtualization technologies for AI, GPU infrastructure, which was later acquired by VMware. Myself, I'm an experienced IT executive and multi-time CIO. I understand the challenges of security in an enterprise while supporting, managing change and growing the business. The webinar is going to have 3 parts, namely the why and what of just-in-time, a practitioner case study, and a demo of BalkanID's just-in-time purpose-based access control, which they refer to as JIT PBAC. In today's digital-first world, organizations face an evolving set of cyber threats. One of the biggest vulnerabilities, standing access. That is, access that exists continuously even when it's not being used. Traditionally, IT and security teams provision access based on roles or job function, but that is often broader than is necessary and rarely revoked once granted. This results in a large attack surface, a treasure trove for threat actors if compromised. Let's start with the problem. Why isn't standing privilege access good enough anymore?
Thanks, Paul. That's a great introduction. I can help dive deep into that. To understand why standing privileged access is no longer sufficient, it helps us to look at how access has been traditionally handled. For years, organizations operated with one guiding principle: make access easy so people can move fast. Employees were given broad, sometimes unrestricted privileges across systems, essentially what we call as God privileges. Once those privileges were granted, they stayed forever, no expiration, no review, no validation whatsoever. It definitely worked beautifully in a world where there are no attackers. But that's not the world we live in. Today, attackers are constantly probing environments, looking for a single forgotten credential or a dormant privileged account to break into your network. Combine that with a massive shift to the cloud, where every workload identity compounds the overall attack surface. And suddenly you have change, you have a very dangerous scenario to handle. A compromised standing privileged account creates a blast radius that can be catastrophic. And we have seen these consequences in the real world. Like we have seen it play out in Okta, MGM, Colonial Pipeline, Uber, Ubiquity. All of them are impacted because of excessive privileges that were lingering and unbounded.
So what happened at MGM in 2023?
That's a classic textbook example of why standing privileges is dangerous. So there's a hacker group called, they call themselves Scatter Spider, uses a very simple technique, a 10-minute social engineering call to the help desk. They impersonated an employee after doing thorough research on his social presence, which is LinkedIn, and they convinced support to reset credentials, and suddenly they got access to all the administrative systems such as Okta and Azure environments. From there, systems across Las Vegas Strip that are managed by MGM went dark. Slot machines, keys, room keys, ATMs, elevator point of sales, everything. I witnessed this firsthand. I was there coincidentally on the same week, and MGM suffered nearly 10 million in the operational losses. Here is an interesting thing. Caesars, who's a peer operator, like runs a big enterprise, multiple casinos, was attacked with the same pattern by the same group, and they reportedly paid 15 million ransom. All of this just because there is the standing privileged access that was never time bound and never validated.
So what's the alternative?
The answer is just-in-time access, JIT, and enforcing the true least privilege control. Instead of giving users permanent an always on elevated access. JIT ensures access is requested when needed and approved based on the policy and granted for a limited window and then automatically revoked. So imagine a developer troubleshooting a production issue. Instead of holding privileged access forever, they request it on demand. Once approved, the access is granted just long enough to to complete the task, and then it disappears. So this kind of dramatically reduces the standing privileges, creates complete auditability, and ensures you have access. You know who had access, when, why, and for how long. So this fundamentally transforms security while also maintaining speed and autonomy.
So how does it really work?
There are like four foundational steps, right? Start with the visibility. You need a complete centralized inventory of all the identities, be it contractors, employers, even your automated service accounts, bots in the age of AI, agentic identities, and understand exactly what they can access, right? And then you define clear policies and guardrails. Who can request what, how long they usually perform that operation, under what conditions. And policies should be risk based and they are context aware and driven by attributes like role, location. And you need to integrate all this tooling with where already users are already adopted to it. This could be like ticketing systems, chat platforms, CI/CD pipelines that they use on a day-to-day basis, so that this control feels very natural, and thereby adoption skyrockets. And lastly, you need to plan for automated revocation. When the time approved time window ends, the ticket closes and access is automatically renewed. No removed, no manual cleanup or no human memory is required to keep a tab on that. So this is how you turn least privilege from a policy into a living operational control.
So what are the benefits?
There are several. Let me go through the high level benefits. The attack surface gets diminished. So with minimal standing access, attackers have fewer footholds. Reduced insider risk. Obviously, the access naturally expires. And stronger compliance posture. This is very important, right? Most of the compliance requirements are like SOX, SOC 2, HIPAA, ISO 27000. The expectations are like you maintain the least privilege. And more importantly, you have operational hygiene and higher productivity.
How do you go about implementing it?
So the biggest shift isn't just technical, it's cultural, right? So it changes how people think about getting the access. The good news is you don't need to rip out your existing tools. The JIT can sit on top of your existing IAM or PAM platforms and leverage existing workflows. So if implemented correctly, you can totally achieve that without any additional friction.
So now that we understand how JIP works conceptually, can you help us connect the before and after pictures we're seeing here?
Absolutely. So this slide puts everything that we have been talking into some context here, right? So in the before world, access flowed one way. Users were granted broad, long-lived privileges that spread across Active Directory, SaaS apps, ERP systems, and those privileges often stayed there indefinitely. So that's where the risk builds up. In the afterworld, nothing really changes for the user if you see. But everything changes behind the scenes on how we manage the access. Access now flows through identity governance systems and the JIT engine, which means privileges are created only when needed and automatically removed when the work is done. So here we are showing the evolution from a static, high privilege model to a dynamic, time bound one. It's the same ecosystem, same users, same systems, but with a completely different control plane. That's key. And this is the shift we had to bring in my previous organization as well. Once we understood this model, the next step was figuring out how to implement it at enterprise scale.
This model does look powerful, and it's great to hear you've actually implemented it. How does it play out operationally? Can you walk us through a real use case from your own experience?
The key is to position it as not just as security control, right? You need to also pitch this as a business accelerator by establishing JIT actually improves the speed while reducing the risk and secure executives buy-in. After the major breaches that pointed out in 2021, 2020, 2019, we made a strategic decision. We needed least privilege everywhere. The existing access model was too risky to maintain. The biggest pushback wasn't technology, it was mindset. Engineers initially feared this would slow them down. We had to we had to prove that secure access could be instantaneous and invisible. To support that, we built a highly reliable access automation tool with almost like 5 9 uptime reliability. But all of that is because JIT system goes down, it can impact tier zero operations. Reliability had to be uncompromising.
So how did you actually build this system then?
We started by building the core infrastructure and the software needed to provision the access on demand and automatically revoke access after a defined duration. That's as simple as that. That's like a heart of the JIT, temporary and time-bound privileges.
I'm sure our audience also has this question in mind. How did you decide on that duration of access? Did you require approvals? Because that could create the very friction you seem to be trying to avoid.
Exactly. So that definitely was the hardest design problem. We knew approval bottlenecks would create some sort of resistance and cripple the adoption.
So how did you solve that puzzle?
We tied JIT directly into our existing change management processes, which are already deeply adopted and rigorously governed by an existing body.
That's brilliant. So using existing processes rather than creating new ones. How does it really work in practice?
It's very simple, right? Every approved change already kind of specifies what systems are being modified and what is the exact timeline. So we simply aligned access with a change window. So if you are part of the change, the access is automatically granted at the start of the change time and automatically revoked at the end.
And
There's no
boom,
friction, no approvals, right? This pure automation.
that sounds great. So problem solved.
Yeah, definitely. That's the key and how we solve the problem. This became seamless, no friction access provisioning with no impact to productivity.
That works great for planned changes. What about unplanned changes? Emergencies happen, systems break. You can't always wait for approval process.
Absolutely. We accounted for that, right? For any unplanned changes in emergency work, we enable on-demand access directly from IGA platform. But here is a key. All emergency patterns were pre-approved in advance. So when an engineer needs an immediate access, there is no additional review required. So access is granted instantly with full logging. That's very key. And a time-bound control.
So essentially, you've got a pre-approved emergency access pattern.
Yes, that's right.
So how do you control the purpose of the access, the who, the what, and the when?
So when someone requests the access, they must specify the purpose, duration, and the context, right? The policies enforce the right level of oversight, including risk-based approvals, sensitivity-based restrictions, and policy checks like segregation of duties. So critical assets can have much tighter rules, layered approvals, or more scrutiny. It is all configurable and flexible.
So how do you control the purpose of the access outside of that formal change window?
I'm so glad you asked that. So, outside of structured change windows, for example, incidents do happen, right? We don't have any control. So, we rely on asset level access controls. These kind of define user eligibility, resource sensitivity, and time boundaries. When someone requests access, they select a purpose, provide a context, and the system routes it to a risk manager for approval based on the predefined policies and configurations.
How did your compliance and audit teams react to this proposal?
They loved it. Eliminating standing privileges is their it's kind of a dream scenario for auditors. The key requirement from them was reliable auditability. That's if you see when the access is temporary, you must maintain crystal clear logs showing exactly who had access to which system during any time window. So we built this directly into the system design. Auditors can retrieve accurate access data for any time frame with complete confidence.
You're putting all your eggs in one basket. How can you be sure that this is actually more secure and yet still accessible?
Great point. So based on how I explained the design of the system, the JIT kind of creates a tier zero dependency. So that means it must be highly resilient. So we engineered this platform for 100% availability, but realistically, no system is perfect on a day one. So we implemented a break glass path. So if IGA system is unavailable, we fall back to manual ticket-driven process with direct admin provisioning. This is definitely not ideal, but it ensures business continuity during critical moments, especially when you're in the initial phases of your tool adoption.
So if somebody needs tighter controls, they can be defined at an asset level based on the criticality of the asset.
Exactly. The flexibility is the key, right? That's essential. Asset sensitivity should dictate the policy strength. In fact, there should also be capabilities like segregation of duties and other important policy checks that trigger automated approvals, even when none of them were originally configured.
Wonderful. How did you actually roll this out in your organization? I imagine you didn't just flip a switch and everybody started using it in one go.
I wish. Yeah, definitely, right? We took an incremental approach. We started with a very few existing roles, the standing roles, uh, which we call them as RBAC roles that are there, uh, provide the standing privileges, and we converted them into JIT roles. Once we started seeing success and the adoption and how seamless the access patterns are, we gradually expanded until all the standing privileges and access pathways were completely removed.
That sounds like a smart incremental approach. Were there any technical issues during the rollout?
Absolutely. As the adoption grew, we had to continuously harden the tool, kind of improve the resiliency, handle the edge cases, ensure the system kind of meets the reliability standards required for tier zero operations. We just couldn't risk a downtime for business critical systems.
This is a fantastic real world example. Does it work for any system like cloud, SaaS, or on-prem? How did you manage this for the traditional legacy platforms so they don't have APIs?
Yep, JET works for both for cloud and on-prem environments, but cloud and modern SaaS systems kind of provide these modern APIs that natively support time-bound provisioning. What that means is the IGA or PAM platform, they don't need to maintain the access state. It's tricky with the legacy on-prem systems. They are different. They often require additional configuration or even custom integrations to track the time-bound access, enforce revocation, maintain audit logs. But there's work, but it's doable.
What would you say are the key lessons for an organization looking to implement just-in-time access?
I would say three things. Leverage existing processes. You should not be in the business of reinventing the governance. Make access seamless. Friction is a killer. Build reliability from day one. The JIT platform must be more dependable than the system it protects. That's the ground rule.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for sharing your implementation journey with us. This practical roadmap will be invaluable to our audience. So you've proven this in a regulated, complex environment. But before we shift to how to get these outcomes without building everything yourself, let me ask, if a company's core business isn't identity management, is this realistic to do it yourself?
Honestly, I don't think so. It's not easy. Implementing JIT at scale requires deep process design, complex integrations, and ongoing governance. Most organizations are far better served by partnering with a specialized platform rather than trying to build everything in house.
Perfect segue. Subbu, how does BalkanID deliver just in time in a way that is achievable for most organizations that don't have their own security team? But actually, first, as CEO of BalkanID, could you actually tell us what BalkanID does? Subbu, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Paul, uh, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you, Sandeep, for all the insights. Uh, BalkanID is a modern identity security and access governance platform that secures accesses across both connected and disconnected apps. And by disconnected apps, it means systems with no APIs, and for human and non-human identities. We can run as a standalone IGA or sit on top of existing identity tools. We offer a full stack IGA platform as well as modular capabilities such as access reviews, lifecycle management, IAM risk and RBAC analysis, which can be used independently, as you see on the slide there. Our core belief is very simple. No organization should be forced into manual identity governance or no governance at all because of complexity or cost or budget constraints. That is why we support everything from modern SaaS, cloud to legacy and custom apps. The biggest blind spot in identity security today for organizations of different sizes, needs, and budgets. And for those, we offer multiple variants, as you see on the screen: BalkanID Lite, BalkanID Enterprise, and BalkanID Managed Service. BalkanID Lite makes enterprise grade IGA accessible for smaller teams and organizations, while our enterprise version supports large, complex environments and customizations. Our fully managed access reviews and lifecycle offering works for teams that want to offload even the operations of IGA along with the automation at a very affordable cost.
That sounds great. Can you tell us about the just-in-time capability?
Sure, Paul. Here is how we offer JIT as a product that can be used in all organizations. We start with a default deny zero trust posture. No identity has standing access. The only way to get it is via purpose.
Purpose? That's the who, what, and when.
Exactly. It defines the user, the resource, and the time window. When someone needs access, they pick a purpose, just like they pick a role, specify the duration, context, then it goes to a risk manager or a reviewer or an app owner for approval. Once approved, BalkanID automatically provisions the access at the start time and automatically deprovisions the access when the window ends.
And what if you need tighter controls?
This is where constraints and policies come in. IP restrictions, max durations, limiting scope to specific systems, custom rules, etc.
This works in any system like cloud or legacy on-prem.
Yes, in fact, BalkanID works in multiple modes. We offer a cloud hosted version. Uh, the JIT payback can be actually hosted as a cloud self hosted version on customers' own clouds, in multiple clouds, AWS, Azure, GCP, etc. And even an on-premise bare metal, because there are a lot of legacy systems and legacy companies and organizations that may be just on-premise, or they may want to be on-premise for keeping their cost low.
Can we see it in action?
Absolutely, Paul. Sure, let's run a quick pre-recorded demo. So
You're not seeing the demo screen?
I'm seeing it. Yes, thank you so much,
Okay.
Paul. So here, we'll see how to create a just-in-time purpose based access control. We're going to create a purpose. We're going to give it a name and a description. We're going to give the owner of the purpose who will approve or deny the purpose. We'll create a pre-expiry notification. We'll add some connections to the purpose. Here we're going to add the VPN client group, and we're going to now tie a policy to a purpose. Now let's see what this policy is all about. Here, there's the name of the policy and a description of it and what's the type of the policy. You can have different types of policies for purpose, reviews, requests, etc. Here, I'm going to set the policy with the rule engine. So it's going to set an auto approve policy. Whenever the purpose is created or requested, it just auto approves. Now I'm going to fill in a few more fields here. And, I'm going to, enter a few more details and I'm going to save this purpose. Now we have the purpose created. Now I'm going to go and create an access request, which is a purpose access request. This is just one type of purpose where I'm going to have Gokul, request this purpose or be requesting this purpose on behalf of Gokul. We're going to set up an expiry date. We're going to set up a start time and an end time. So this is where actually JIT PBAC, is advanced, where you can even have a purpose that starts and ends, at particular time windows in a given date. So for example, every day, if somebody is active only from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. or 6 p.m., it only gives access in that time window. And we're going to enter a reason. We're going to basically go through and confirm everything is looking good. And we're going to create the purpose. Because we had auto approve, it's already approved. Right? Now I'm going to create another purpose. Now this time I'm going to create an auto deny, tie a policy back called auto deny. So I'm going to enter a purpose as Azure prod super admin access. I'm going to basically, again, switch the owner, the same owner as last time. I'm going to do a pre-expiry notification. I'm going to have a connection added, which is the super admin connection. And then I'm going to tie it to a policy, just like last time. I'm going to pick the SOD policy of Azure Prod, where let's go and review the policy, what the policy is. We already created the policy, but we'll go and edit it and review it. So this is the policy, restricting developers' access to prod groups in Azure. And if the requested user is a developer, and we're going to basically, again, the rule engine. And if the purpose is super admin, it can be very complex as well. I'm basically doing a very simple rule here in Azure, then auto deny the purpose. So now, the policy is created, policy is added. Now let me, we'll just go and fill a few more fields here, like department, job title, etc. And these fields are going to be useful when we create and when we people request purposes. They can request purposes, not just the direct purposes, but they can also request purposes such as, I want to request a purpose, just for a given job title, different department, different birthright, different team, etc. As you see here. Now here again, I'm requesting purpose of this person, Azure Prod, Super Admin. I'm going to set up a start time and an end time. Remember, this is an auto deny. So this policy, this purpose will be automatically denied because of the policy that is set. So here I'm going to fill in these details and I'm going to go through and hit next. And, just make sure everything is looking good for Walter. And because of the SOD policy that we have, this request is automatically denied. Now let's go through another purpose where I'm going to have a constraint that's pre-created. I'm now going to go through creating the constraint. A constraint is something that's well defined by the system upfront, where even if there is a policy that approves the purpose, and let's say somebody approves it, because of the constraint, the provisioning will fail. For example, you can also set policies as constraints as well. But constraints could be, hey, I don't want interns having production access, or I don't want, this particular group, no matter who approves it, nobody should get access to it. So you can have, those kind of constraints. So here again, I'm going to go and pick a few, connections. This is, we're going to actually set this up with an SRE kind of a thing. So where we're going to have managers, Grafana, marketing data, and Damocloid. And then we're going to set up a policy called SRE. And here I'm going to go and review that policy. And again, same way as we did the other policies. Again, the policy engine allows you to be very customizable, where you can have advanced rules here. Here, if the requested user is part of the SRE team, last time we did a developer, etc. Here it's an SRE team. An SRE team is already predefined team, what that team means, etc. uh, then assign the reviews to particular people, right? Now I'm going to fill in a few more details. Let's like how I did the last time. And let's just go through filling the job title, uh, employment type, team, and then yes, hit save. Now I'm going to request this, purpose. This time I'm going to request it for, say, Eric Dane. Again, not picking basically the default, purposes for a team, birthright, etc. I'm going to pick the purpose. I want Azure Group B2. I need something. I need this purpose because maybe I'm an SRE and I'm going to need this purpose from 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. on a daily basis because my work time is 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. So why should I have access outside of my work time? Now, I'm going to basically go through this. And then remember, there's a constraint that's tied to it, right? A constraint that is tied to it, even though the purpose is going to be assigned to the reviewers such as Aishwarya and Gokul, which is what we set up as the policy. The reviewers should be Aishwarya and Gokul. Here, the purpose after I basically hit submit or after I basically go and approve the purpose, this purpose will still get denied because of the constraint that I have given. So here I'm going to approve this. And if you go into the app again and refresh the screen, you will see that the the purpose is approved, request is approved, but the provisioning is failed. Again, this is again another level of a gating from a constraint perspective. Now I'm going to basically go through how you can all do this. From a Slack, we can support this from where the work is happening. Slack, Teams, etc. Again, same thing that we did in the web application. We're going to basically just request a purpose. The user requesting a purpose from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. And this purpose was actually an auto approved thing, so it just got auto approved. Now let's say I'm going to go and do a purpose where a purpose that's already assigned to me, I'm going to go and start the purpose. So for example, I'm, this person Aishwarya, I'm going to come in and say, okay, I don't have the SRE purposes, the, the Grafana marketing, and those groups that we previously assigned to Eric. Now I'm going to start this purpose again, just in time. When I start this purpose, I'm going to get this access immediately. Why? Because the purpose is already approved, that I have the optionality to get access to this. So that is already approved. So I can, whenever I need in that window where it's approved, I can start and stop the purpose. So now I've stopped this purpose. Now, when I go back and refresh, all the accesses will basically be gone. And that kind of wraps up the demo.
What happens when you have an emergency fix, though, out of hours?
A great question, Paul, right? Emergencies do happen. And that's exactly where controlled blade glass access comes in. In an emergency, you should be able to access, grant access very quickly, but never permanently, and never without accountability. So break glass accesses should be time bound, purpose bound, fully audited. The access is granted only for the duration of the incident, automatically expires, and is logged with clear context around who accessed what, why, and when. The key difference from traditional models is that this isn't a standing admin access that's sitting around just in case you need this access. This is just in time. It's on demand, explicitly invoked for an emergency, ideally with an approval and a justification and a post incident review built in. This way, you resolve the issue fast without leaving behind toxic access or creating a bigger security problem than the incident you are trying to fix.
So the result is time-bound, fully auditable access with minimal friction.
Exactly. You get a minimized access attack surface, a compliance that is built in, avoidance of costly UEBA implementations, and a user friendly experience that can be used by any organizations. You may not be a Visa or a Credit Karma or an MGM to be able to build your own things. But any organizations, they can, just like how Sandeep said, they can go and get a platform like this, and they can get just-in-time access control implemented, just like the large organizations. At BalkanID, a just-in-time purpose-based access control, which we call as JIT PBAC, it's an acronym, enforces a default deny zero trust policy with no standing access. Access is granted only for a specific purpose, scope, duration, approved by the right risk owner, and automatically removed when it's no longer needed. This dramatically reduces the attack surface, simplifies compliance with built-in audit evidence, and eliminates any manual provisioning and cleanup. And it also works, from a web app or where your work is happening in your IM, like a Slack, etc. JIT Payback works at enterprise scale across cloud, SaaS, on-premise. The key is to make things secure and make access intentional and not the exception.
So thank you, Subbu, and thanks, Sandeep, earlier. Let's move into Q&A. Please press the Q&A button and raise any questions you have for either Sandeep or Subbu, and I'll ask the questions on your behalf. Thank you. How long does JIT PBAC take to deploy in a mid-sized organization?
I'm assuming that question is for me, Paul.
Yes.
In a mid-sized organization, we typically get JIT Payback live in a few hours and days at max. In enterprises, it takes, larger enterprise takes days and at most weeks, and mostly due to getting the relevant applications connected and approvals, etc. We usually start with a focused use case like a privileged access, a PAM use case, or a break glass, or a high risk application, or the infrastructure access, engineering access, etc., and expand from there. And because BalkanID is modular, and JIT Payback in turn becomes modular, it can also sit on top of existing systems. So customers don't have to rip and replace anything to get the value of JIT Payback. So if they have existing systems already for their IGA work approvals, etc., they can use that in conjunction with the just-in-time provisioning.
Thank you. If anybody's wondering where the question and answer is, on my screen, it's on the right-hand side is a circle with 3 dots inside. You have to click on that, and then you get to question and answer. So happy to take any additional questions from the audience. I got another question. Does it work with your existing IAM and IGA platforms?
Absolutely. I'm assuming this question also is for me, that's the whole design principle for us. It is BalkanID and JIT Payback and all of our IGA solutions that we have, reviews lifecycle. They are all built to complement existing IAM and IGA platforms, not to replace them on day one, because replacing them is not practical. So as I mentioned earlier, it can be run as a standalone or run headless, sitting on top of tools like Azure AD, or Entra ID, which is the same Okta, SailPoint, Savient, and others. And this way, you're orchestrating just-in-time access by leveraging an organization's existing identity, infrastructure, and data and controls.
Thank you. I've got another question here, probably for you, Subbu, I think. What are the most common mistakes organizations make in implementing just-in-time?
The most common, and I'd love for, Sandeep to also chime in after I add, one of the most common mistakes that we have seen is, organizations wait too long. They want to get it perfect and they wait too long. So what we've seen is start with a small use case and then, get it going and then slowly add incrementally actually expand the scope as opposed to trying to boil the ocean and say, well, I want to do everything perfectly day one, and then you never start. Just in time just becomes basically a vision on a slide deck. Sandeep,
Yeah,
you have any thoughts?
totally. So the other challenge that I've seen is looking at this as purely a technical problem to solve, right? It's deeply rooted. There's there's no silver bullet for this. Each organization has a different culture, and your solutioning needs to like embody the culture, right? That's the only way you can drive adoption seamless.
Thank you. And Subbu, in terms of people delaying, I think a lot of people worry how expensive this could be. But at least in my view, like what I've seen with your tool is it's extremely cost effective and huge benefits. Is that what you see with your other customers?
Yes, in fact, that is the whole idea of how we have aligned the product, right? So if you look at, BalkanID, everything comes back to, what is the cost? Because, at the end of the day, you want to do JIT. Of course, security is one thing, but it's also there's a cost and budget. So what we've kind of done is, from a pricing perspective, uh, it takes, 1/10 of an engineer's cost, to kind of actually use it in full operational mode, for a year for many organizations. So in that case, the value is very, very immediately given, and people just, start using it right away. And that's the whole reason we have this light version that you start with, and then you start slowly expanding to enterprise and any customizations you want to add.
Thank you. Sandeep, a question for you. This is very much about improving security, but can you tell us how you found that just in time is balancing productivity versus the security?
So that's the key, right? You balance productivity and security by making the secure access seamless and the overall tooling that you build invisible, right? So this automates the approvals, grants the privileges only when needed, and removing them immediately after. This kind of helps teams stay fast, execute fast, while the environment stays protected.
Thank you. No, it does seem to be winning both on the security and the productivity side. That's all the questions that I have so far. So I will give a few seconds if any of the attendees wants to raise a final question. I'll give you a few seconds. Oh, um, I got a final question. Maybe Sandeep, you can respond to this one given what you've shared already. How does this work for more regulated industries?
This is where the solution that you're building needs to have perfect auditability, right? You should be able to provide auditability and traceability, right? So you should be able to provide any information that is required by auditors. That is only possible when you ingrain all of that into your system capabilities, right? Um, yeah, once you nail that, I don't think it's a big problem.
Thank you. So let's do a quick summary. I really appreciate everybody joining us today. Hope you have learned a lot about the reasons for why just-in-time access is a helpful security move and potentially accelerates your business speed. The key is really that today standing access is no longer acceptable. It's too large a platform and too risky. Just-in-time is the way to solve that problem. But if you want to implement successfully, it's not just a technology. You have to think about the cultural change as well. And the best way of implementing it is to build it on top of your existing processes and tools. Don't rip them out and replace them. As Sandeep just reminded us, auditability is really the key, and getting your compliance teams on board with this change. And BalkanIDs, JIT PBAC, is a very modern identity solution, cost effective, easy to implement. Thank you so much for joining us, Sandeep, Subbu. Really appreciate all your insights that you've shared on the call today.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Tha-
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Subbu.
Thank you so much, Paul. And yeah, it's been a wonderful, conversation.
And if you want to follow up, please feel free to reach out to BalkanID. This is the email address, and we'd be very happy to connect with you and help you understand how to implement it for yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you all.